Okay, hi guys. So right now I'm at the same time streaming on Vigo Live and also recording a copy of it on YouTube here. So the book I'm going to be reading today is called Psych, The Missing Piece in Your Life, and it's written by Robert M. Williams, M.A. And basically, guys, if you don't know anything about this book, I came across it when I was reading Bruce Lipton's book, Biology of Belief, in which it's like, it's kind of it's a dense book. If you don't have oh, thanks Vishal, you too. If you guys don't really have like a very like analytical brain, you might find it like uninteresting. But Biology of Belief basically talks about how our physiology and our biology actually changes based on our mental intention and also our belief system. And he goes more into like the science behind it. But basically at the end of his book, he talks about how, I'll give this lecture, to great masses of people, like in like a talk style. And at the end, oftentimes I would notice like they kind of like gave like a weird like vibe. Oh, Vish says, gotta sleep now, have a service to attend. Oh, gotcha, Vishal, have a good one. Yeah, thanks for dropping in. Basically, he said like because he wouldn't give any kind of like information as to like, oh, how do I change my belief systems to like get what I want and things like that. He didn't have that information. He just had, well, this is how it works, not how to basically control yourself. They would kind of like just give him a blank stare, except for this one time he was at a conference and the person that came on after him was this guy called Robert M. Williams, and this is his book. And basically the information that he shared was kind of like, how do we change our belief system, and why, and basically the reason of like why it was important was like in Bruce Lipton's spiel. So apparently that's what this book is supposed to do. So it's supposed to give us some real world ways to apply certain things in our lives. So I'm just going to jump in here. So again, it's called Psych, The Missing Piece in Your Life, spelled P-E-A-C-E, by Robert M. Williams. He has a quote from the Essene Gospels of Peace. Peace is the key to all knowledge, all mystery, all life. Oh, thank you, Nate. Okay, so we have contents. Okay, here's the foreword. The perception that our lives are controlled by our genes is so fundamental to our civilization that this dogma is incorporated into the most elemental level of a child's education. The genes control life message is continuously repeated through every level of higher education, from grade school up through graduate and medical school. The general public has been conditioned to believe that the human body represents an exquisite genetically controlled automation. In support of this belief, we attribute our abilities, and most importantly, our disabilities, to the character of our inherited gene codes. Oh, thanks, Vishal. You have a blessed day as well. Nate wants to know how I've been. I've been very good. Still in quarantine. Yeah, just reading a book now. No new news. Otherwise, I'd let you guys know. Thanks for asking. Okay. Since genes apparently control the traits of an individual's life, and since we had no say in which genes we were provided at conception, we might rightly consider ourselves victims of victims of heredity. We have been programmed to accept that we are subservient to the power of our genes in creating the experience of our lives. The world is filled with people who are in constant fear of that. On some unsuspecting day, their genes are going to turn on them. Consider the masses of people who perceive their genes as ticking time bombs, waiting for cancer or some other life-threatening catastrophic disease to explode in their life. Millions of others attribute their failing health issues, such as cardiovascular disease, to inadequacies of their body's biochemical mechanisms. Distraught parents readily blame unruly behavior on chemical imbalances in their child's brain. The current mainstream scientific dogma insists that we are recipients of hand-me-down genetic codes that we are apparently unable to change. Consequently, we find ourselves not only victims of heredity, but powerless with regard to our ability to reprogram our fate. In assuming the role of powerless victims, we may rightfully deny responsibility for our ill health, both physical and mental. Unfortunately, this denial results in a tremendous amount of human suffering and disease. Oh, thanks, Meyer. So much for the bad news. The good news is that, in fact, we are not victims of our genes. Astonishing advances in physics and cell biology have recently toppled the philosophical underpinnings of conventional biomedicine. A radically new understanding emerging at the cutting edge of cell science recognizes that the environment, and more specifically our perception of the environment, directly controls our behavior and the activity of our genes. Since our perceptions may be accurate or inaccurate, we may more appropriately refer to them as beliefs. Rather than your genes, it is your beliefs that control your biology. The new advances in physics and biology lead us to a future of hope and self-determination. Rob Williams' simple and profoundly empowering book sheds new light on an important shift in our understanding of the human mind and its effect on biology and behavior. The psychology of personal change presented in the following pages represents a giant step forward toward freeing ourselves from the limitations of outdated concepts about personal growth and development. It points the way toward becoming masters of our destiny instead of victims of our genes. When applied, these principles can dramatically accelerate the expression of our true nature as spiritual beings of unlimited potential. Bruce H. Lipton, PhD. So that's the biologist who I was referring to, who wrote Biology of Belief. Apparently, he did the foreword for his buddy's book, which is kind of nice. Oh, thanks, Meyer. All right, third edition update. Since its inception in 1988, much has changed for Psych. In the beginning, it was used primarily to address psychological obstacles to happiness among those individuals who were seeking a better life. It was often described as a psychological process that could be used to improve life, mentally and physically. It has been a popular tool for change with lay people and mental health care professionals alike. Over time, it has evolved beyond its early designation to reflect the evolving needs of humanity. The ever-increasing awareness of the role of spirituality in our lives has become paramount. The fact that many people have discovered the use of Psych for accelerating one's spiritual evolution is fast becoming the most popular application of this amazing method for change. Hence, today, Psych is popularly characterized as a spiritual process with psychological benefits. As the originator of Psych, I concur. I believe that in the final analysis, all problems are spiritual problems with physical side effects. The ability to change limiting beliefs that keep us from recognizing our divinity, discovering our greatness, and becoming the peace we seek is the greatest gift of Psych for all who are ready to make the leap. Together we can make a difference. Rob Williams. All right. Preface. Trying smarter, not harder. If you are like many people, you have tried hard to become a better person over the years. But when it comes to accomplishing your goals in life, sometimes it can feel like you are your own worst enemy instead of your own best friend. This inner conflict can keep you from having a life filled with joy, happiness, and peace. Most people meet this inner conflict by doubling their efforts to overcome the resistance they feel inside. But sometimes trying harder isn't the answer. The following story illustrates the point. Oh, hi Shazad, welcome. Guys, if you're just coming in now, I'm reading the book Psych, The Missing Piece in Your Life by Rob Williams. Not the comedian, the doctor. Master's degree owner. There you go. I'm sitting in a quiet room at the Millcroft Inn, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees about an hour out of Toronto. It's just past noon, late July, and I'm listening to the desperate sound of a life or death struggle going on a few feet away. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energy in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of a fly's strategy. Try harder, but it's not working. His frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of this self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different? How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. As the saying goes, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. There is a better way to find the missing piece in your life than to double your efforts and try harder. That's what this book is about. Oh, Trump 2020 sent me a little emoji. Oh, it's a balloon, thank you. Okay, introduction. Sayings remain meaningless until they are embodied in habits. Guys, if you're just joining the live right now, I'm reading the book Psych, The Missing Piece in Your Life by Rob Williams, not the comedian, the researcher. Okay, making wisdom a habit instead of an effort. Ever wonder why your life doesn't look like the wisdom and inspiration you've gleaned from all those self-help books you've read, the workshops and lectures you've attended, the audio tapes you've listened to, or the therapy sessions you've had? Okay, let's assume you've read all the bright books, attended countless workshops, and listened to the most powerful gurus on the planet. Why is there a nagging suspicion that these things are pretty much the same as they've always been? You know, the relationship, prosperity, self-esteem, weight loss, job burnout, can't seem to get my life together issues. It's not something most of us want to admit because we often invest a lot of time and money in self-improvement and still end up blaming ourselves for not having enough willpower or commitment to accomplish our goals. In short, we just aren't trying hard enough. Or if we decide that we aren't the problem, then it must be the fault of other people, like a spouse, a boss, our parents, the society, even God. And if those explanations don't satisfactorily sidestep the real issue, we can always count on bad luck, bad karma, bad genes, or fate as can't do anything about it excuses to settle for a life of quiet resignation, resentment, and hopelessness. Sure, most of us put on a happy face every day, but who are we kidding? Making peace with yourself. This book is about the missing piece between trying harder and trying smarter, between great insights and a great life, between acquiring wisdom and putting that wisdom into action in your life. It explains why the wisdom you possess doesn't always show up in your life the way you want it to, and why doing more of what you have been doing may be the part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Finally, it explains how this frustration, when turned into knowledge, can free you from the tyranny of trying harder. The information in this book changed my life. Based on years of experience using Psych with others and myself, I am confident this new understanding about the process of change, coupled with the skills to put it into action, holds the same potential for you. What can you expect from this book? There's a quote, "Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do." Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Oh, thank you, Trump 2020, for more balloons. Because you are reading this book, chances are you are interested in improving your life and becoming a better human being. I hope the information and insights you find here will be compelling enough for you to take the next step, to learn how to put this information into action, so you can create the life you really want and deserve. Reading the book is an important first step in a two-step transformational process. Step 1 is getting the necessary information to decide why to take the action suggested here. Step 2 is learning how to put the information into action, and is an interactive experimental process. The Psych belief change processes referred to in this book can best be experienced by way of private sessions or workshops taught by certified Psych instructors, nationally and internationally. Imagine trying to learn how to swim by reading a book. Sure, you can learn about swimming, but it's not like actually getting in the water. Books are excellent vehicles for conveying information, insights, and inspiration, but they aren't as good at conveying knowledge based on direct interactive experience. For that reason, this book is more about why to do Psych K than how to do Psych K. Despite the intrinsic limitations of a book format to facilitate experiences best learned through an interactive group setting, a few significant exceptions to the rule exist and are included in the book. For instance, you will learn a simple, direct, and verifiable process for communicating directly with your subconscious mind in order to discover pre-programmed hidden beliefs from your past that may be sabotaging your success and happiness. Also, you will learn how to set life goals in such a way that they can become more like self-fulfilling prophecies than day-to-day struggles. In addition, I set out the essential information and insights necessary to understand what is missing in many of the most popular self-help approaches you may have already tried, including visualization, affirmations, positive thinking, willpower, and so on. I am suggesting a new and more effective method of achieving your personal goals, a process that gives you the know-how and tools you need to create the life you really want, a process that can free your mind from the prison of limiting beliefs. Oh, thank you, Raju. Welcome to the real world of possibilities instead of pre-programmed world of limitations. All right, guys. Chapter 1, The Roots of Psych K. People wish to be settled. Only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for them. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Is this as good as it gets? It was 1983. I don't remember the month or even the season. I recall only the circumstances. Sitting in my office at the cable television company, I stared into space. For the last couple of years, I'd pushed thoughts of how much longer and something's got to give far into a back room of my awareness. The door to that room had been ajar for some time, and I'd sneak glimpses into its dim recesses. Why, I'd wonder, was I now earning 3 times the money I had made in my first job, yet feeling 3 times worse? Certainly, one of the main reasons I'd taken my current job was to reduce my commuting time from several hours a day to just a few minutes. But a convenient commute was no longer a satisfactory trade-off from my need to contribute something more to people's lives than I could manage a cable TV system. The fat wallet, thin life feeling became overwhelming, putting me in one of those life assessment moments where in the privacy of my own mind I could be completely honest. This was not unfamiliar territory to me, having known such moments more than a few times in the previous several years. The social trappings for happiness were all there. A wife, 2 children, a home in the suburbs, and a combined income that afforded the creature comforts of middle-class America, and yet something vital was missing. Until that moment, my ability to reason had been my most effective tool for navigating through the white water of life. Indeed, reason and logic were responsible for most of what I had created, and yet simultaneously, I knew these seemingly all-important faculties were no match for the deep feelings of emptiness sitting in my belly. Logic, in fact, was making things worse, reminding me that I should be happy because I had what most people wanted. Who was I to complain? The real issue wasn't about me rocking the boat, because the boat was rocking me. I sat at my desk, unaware of anything on that day but the simple fact that for 2 years, I had been trying not to rock the boat, and now the boat was sinking. Something had to change. I was not clear about what that something was, but a sense of despair and impending disaster haunted me. I had reached a point of no return. In the past, it had never gone that far. All of a sudden, I was in touch with what was at the very core of my being, beyond the boundaries of my personality and the day-to-day social concerns that are the domain of logic. I became aware that the greatest joy I derived from my current job came from working with people, and that it was only a matter of time before I would have to make a change. Those 2 realizations catapulted me out of a 14-year business career and the financial security it provided. Compelled by a persistent sense of urgency, I enrolled in a graduate program for counseling at the University of Colorado. Over the next 3 years, I completed the coursework at night and in 1986 I received a master's degree in counseling. During that time, I realized that the world of business and the world of counseling were worlds apart. Whereas business stressed results, counseling emphasized the process itself. Success in business, often measured as profit and loss, was quantifiable. Counseling, on the other hand, was difficult to quantify in any concrete way, and the process could take years before results were apparent. Yet I loved it. As I grew as a therapist, I found myself not always agreeing with the business philosophy of just doing whatever it took to achieve success. Yet I was equally disturbed by the overemphasis on the process of psychotherapy, with so little attention being paid to achieving results. This widening schism forced me to look outside my university training for more results-oriented approaches to my future profession as a psychotherapist, a search that led me through a myriad of alternative therapies such as neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, hypnosis, educational kinesiology, touch for health, Reiki, and a plethora of other contemporary and ancient healing techniques. I read countless books, attended numerous lectures and workshops, and listened to the best and the worst of the self-help gurus. Out of this primordial soup of therapeutic approaches, I eventually arrived at the conclusions I share with you in this book. Finally, in 1986, I left the business world to begin a private practice in psychotherapy, struggling for 2 years to find better ways to help my clients make positive changes in their lives. I was frustrated by the limitations of the old counseling formula of insight and willpower equals change. Many of my clients, up to their eyeballs in insights about how and why they had become the way they were still not experiencing the satisfying lives they sought. I helped them develop mental and behavioral strategies for moving beyond their current limitations, yet the problems persisted despite their motivation and efforts to change. They knew the right things to do, yet they weren't doing the right things. Something was missing, but what? I did know that just using insight and willpower alone seldom resulted in real and lasting change. I believed my clients deserved a better return on the time and money they were investing than I was capable of offering with the techniques I learned in graduate school. My search for synthesis finally came to fruition early in December 1988. I remember that day clearly. I was putting together a marketing flyer for a workshop I had done several times before. With money tight and Christmas shopping in full swing, I was counting on the workshop to ease the extra expenses of the season. I took the master flyer I prepared on my computer to the local printer. I drove home and began to fold them for mailing when I noticed the dates of the workshop were missing. 150 flyers and no dates. I considered hand-correcting them, but my sense of perfectionism would not permit it. So the only option was correcting the master copy and going back to the printer for more copies. Home again with dates in place, I began the folding job once more. When I was halfway through the task, my eyes caught the registration section. I couldn't believe what I saw, or rather didn't see. I had left off the times of the workshop. In disbelief, I stared at that flyer for 5 full minutes, thinking maybe if I stared long enough, I could make the times magically appear. I had never made that mistake on the flyers before. Soon I went from being stunned to being angry, deeply angry. I was faced with the same dilemma of correcting the copies by hand or starting all over again. I had already wasted 150 flyers. I couldn't bear the thought of sending out anything that looked unprofessional. Furious with myself for being so careless, frustrated by the economic pressures of the Christmas season, and plagued by an ominous feeling that something or someone other than just myself was sabotaging me, I went out to the backyard to let the December air cool the rage in my flushed face. Still fuming, I sat on a half-frozen lawn chair and closed my eyes. Through clenched teeth, I said out loud, "Okay, God, if you don't want me to do what I'm doing, what do you want me to do?" I sat in silence, not really expecting an answer, but to my astonishment, within minutes, the details of a pattern for changing subconscious beliefs showed up in my head. I could barely believe what I was experiencing. When the information stopped coming, I jumped up, ran to my computer, and feverishly began typing. In a matter of a few minutes, the information in my head was gone, and I was reading what I had typed. 13 paired belief statements and the complete instructions for their use. Even though certain components of the pattern were recognizable as ideas with which I was already familiar, most of them were new. In fact, the entire format and sequence of steps was completely unique. This experience was remarkable, to say the least. It became the first in a series of patterns I received in a similar manner over the next several months. These unique processes constitute the body of work I call Psych K. Okay, guys, that was not even the first chapter. It was the forward preface and first few pages of the first chapter of Psych K, The Missing Piece in Your Life by Rob Williams, not the comedian, the researcher. And I am also going to, right now I'm also streaming on Bigo, and I'm also recording myself to be posting this on YouTube in a few minutes. So if you guys came in halfway through the stream and want to watch what I was reading before, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's called Kumquat Kelly, like the fruit, and you can watch it there. I'm going to be stopping this stream right now, and I'm going to come back in a few minutes and do another stream where I continue reading this book, so feel free to join me then. Until then, thanks for watching, and I will catch you later.